Welcome to the channel, guys. We are back again for another clone comparison. Today I'm going to be talking about Heirloom by Parfums. This is a clone of Clive Christian's Rock Rose, so stay tuned for that. And if you like fragrance reviews, clone comparisons, top 10 lists, hit that subscribe button for more great content. I don't know about you guys, but it is crazy hot over here on the West Coast. Absolutely insane. I'm probably going to break up a sweat just recording this video because I had to turn the air conditioning off, so of course you could hear what I have to say. Now, not ideal, but you know, we do what we gotta do. So, Jean Parfums, if you know, I'm a big fan of genre. I do like a lot of the fragrances that they have to offer. The owner, Devin's a really cool guy. And if you do want to order from them, you do have to do it through their Facebook page. You know, ordering is only open once a month usually, sometimes a little bit longer. Devin does work 2 jobs, so he kind of does what he can. That is a little bit frustrating, I'll admit that, and I'll say that. It is a little bit frustrating not to be able to just order whenever you want, but I do still like the brand a lot. I think they have a lot of great fragrances, and I do like Rock Rose. A lot of people were asking for this clone, and finally got it out there. It's called Heirloom, so it is a clone of Rock Rose. So, first off, I'm going to say this is pretty close, but it's not 100%, and it's not 95%. It's probably in that 90% range for how close it actually is. I do find that, you know, actually, you know what? I'm going to talk about Rock Rose just briefly, and then I'm going to talk about some of the comparisons. Now, Rock Rose, of course, I find it to be this fresh, actually kind of mainstream feeling fragrance. It is very designerish, although it does feel very high quality. Kind of has this nice breezy bubblegum sweetness in the fragrance with a little bit of a sort of woodiness in the dry down. But overall, it's a very fresh, sweet fragrance. And I think it is a really, really nice fragrance for spring, probably also for summer. Would be interesting how it would hold up in this heat. This humidity right now is absolutely crazy. I definitely starting to break a sweat already, but Heirloom. So Heirloom does open up very, very similar to Rock Rose. I actually get a little bit of a, on both fragrances, you know, the first whiff or so is a little bit of a kind of unpleasant, almost plasticky feel. I'm not sure how to characterize it, but there is a little bit of an unpleasantness there for the first 10-15 seconds. But this one becomes very smooth very, very quickly. Now, Rock Rose, I find you do get a lot of the freshness right away, but there's also a pepperiness. And one thing I find with Heirloom is that it's really, really heavy on the violet. Now, the original is also heavy on the violet as well. Gives it this nice breezy sort of freshness. But I think that the violet is a little bit stronger in Heirloom than it is in the original. Now, if you really enjoy that breezy freshness, then you are going to like that about it. And to me, it does remind me a little bit of Wynwood in that respect. So this is a fragrance by Mancera, which is also a very, very heavy violet fragrance and gives it kind of this spring or summer breeze kind of a feel. You absolutely get that feeling with this fragrance and with the original as well. But, you know, like I said, it's a little bit, it's definitely a little bit stronger, and there isn't really a pepperiness to speak of, where I do pick up, you know, actually a substantial pepperiness in the opening, which does give it a nice dimension. One that unfortunately I think that the clone is lacking. But that being said, it does still have a very, very nice opening. It has that breezy freshness, has that sweet sort of bubblegum vibe, and it does have that hint of sort of class and quality. And so that's the biggest thing, you know, even when I did try this fragrance out, the original fragrance, Rock Rose, you know, it like I said, it does feel a little bit more like a designer or mainstream fragrance, which is never necessarily a bad thing, but it definitely feels more high quality. The ingredients feel more high quality, and Heirloom does capture that feeling as well. So you do get this really nice, fresh, breezy feeling. I also felt like the opening is a little bit stronger. Now, to be fair, I have a spray for Heirloom, and I only have a dab on for Rock Rose. And I do sometimes find that with dab-ons that the projection is not as strong. I don't know if that's a more of a mental thing or what the case may be, but a lot of times I do get that with a fragrance. So I am just, you know, being fair to mention that there is a difference there where, you know, in reality it might not be as different with how strong it is as I'm perceiving it off my tests, but I do definitely feel like it projects a little bit more, that it is a little bit louder than the original fragrance, which again, not really a bad thing, as it is a fresher, lighter, easy to wear fragrance. I find these fragrances are harder to be too projection-y, if that makes sense. I mean, it can happen, but it's easier to wear more of these sort of fresh fragrances without being too much. Now, that being said, also that it is a fresh fragrance, but it is also a little bit thicker. Now, it's not as thick as like a heavy winter fragrance, but it is one that is most definitely not as light as something like Pacific Rock Moss or even maybe Sedley. It's a little bit thicker than Sedley. I do find that Sedley has a little bit of thickness to it, although still very fresh. This one's just a little bit thicker than even that. So do be aware of that. Now, dry down I also find a little bit different. I find that in Heirloom there is a little bit more of the cocoa, and it is a little bit woodier, which I actually really, really like about that. And to be honest, that aspect of the fragrance I think is better in Heirloom, where yes, the pepperiness in the opening is nice on the original. The fact that I get a little bit more of that cocoa and woodiness gives it a really nice masculine edge, and it does smell really, really nice. So it does, like I said, it's about 90%. It's very close. All the dynamics are pretty much there. It's just things are a little bit different in how they play out. But if Clive Christian fragrances are extremely expensive, and especially even for Rock Rose, which I do like. Out of all the fragrances I've tried by Clive Christian, it's probably the one I like the most. I just always have a hard time justifying the price. They always seem so overpriced to me. That's my personal opinion, of course, for what they are and for what they offer. And so if you like Rock Rose, you want something that's definitely very similar, but you definitely don't want to pay those prices. Heirloom is absolutely worth a try. I think it's actually really good. Now, performance on this one is also quite good with respect to longevity. So it is definitely around that 8-hour mark. It's in between the 6 to 8 hour mark, which, especially for the kind of fragrance that it is good. I think that fresh aspect where it's really breezy lasts, 3-4 hours, and then it really starts to settle into more of that sort of cocoa-y, woody dry down. And I mean, sometimes it goes a little bit past 8 hours for me, but at that point it is definitely really close to the skin. Whereas before that, it's not as much of a skin scent. And especially, in that opening, in the first 2-3 hours, definitely it's projecting pretty dang good. When you get down to that area where it's more of a woody cocoa feel, it is a little bit closer to the skin. It is not a total skin scent, but it's definitely something that sits a little closer to the skin for sure. So longevity is there, as I mentioned. Performance is also really good, and I think it does slightly outperform the original. Maybe it is because it has a little bit more of a woodier base, which is and a cocoa-y base, which does last a little bit longer, whereas in the original I don't really detect those that much. And so it might be one of the reasons. Now, as for occasions where you'd want to wear this one, it can definitely be worn dressed up. In fact, I think that if you had, it could be worn in a more formal occasion, in a warm weather thing, where if you had a suit or whatever, like a warm weather formal occasion, maybe a wedding, who knows, this could be worn because, like I said, it is a fresh, light, easy to wear fragrance. It's very likable, but it smells like quality. And that's the biggest thing, that even though, as I said, it's a fairly mainstream smelling fragrance, it does have a lot of quality there. And I think that's one of the reasons why Clive Christian can pull it off as being, a little bit more of an expensive fragrance. But that also being said, that really breezy freshness, it makes it an easy daily wear. You could easily wear this. It's very versatile in that respect. And I actually feel like you could dress this one down quite a bit and still wear it quite easily. Now, I mean, ideally, I think this one would be worn such that as it transitions more into the cocoa woodiness, it would be getting a little bit darker, a little bit cooler, just because it has a little bit more of that sweet woodsy feel to it that I think is more conducive to a nighttime fragrance. But the opening especially is something that works really, really well in the daytime. That mid really, really well in the daytime. Very fresh, very breezy, very uplifting, very easy to enjoy. Really do enjoy this fragrance. So, like I said, if you're looking for an alternative to Clive Christian Rock Rose, Heirloom, definitely one worth checking out. Don't expect it to be a dead match. You know, I think Devin does a great job, and a lot of the fragrances he have are really, really close. This isn't the closest one he's got, but if you want something that gives you the feel and is quite close without the price tag, I think Heirloom is a really, really nice one. And I don't think people, unless they're really familiar with Rock Rose, are going to be able to tell the difference. But like I said, there are some noticeable differences there in both the opening and the dry down. Anyways, guys, as I've mentioned a million times, love genre. I'm going to leave a link down to their fan page below. This is where you order if you decide that you want to. I just, like I said, I do really enjoy the fragrance house. They have a lot of great originals and a lot of good clones. I have many videos on these guys. I've been buying off them for quite some time. So yeah, do feel free to check that out if you want to. But as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video.